Welcome to Health Pod, your self-development hub
on mental health, psychology, and spirituality.
Feng Shui works in mysterious ways.
Okay.
The first step is that we're changing the energy. That's the, step number one. We're changing the energy of the space. We're changing the perspective. And all of a sudden, some things that maybe were blocked or were challenging for that person, all of a sudden they start changing. But it's shockingly accurate.
Wow.
How people's challenging are showing up in their homes. It's shocking.
Welcome to another episode on Health Pod. I'm Hélène, I'm an empowerment and embodiment coach, and today we are here with Sabah talking about Feng Shui and interior design spaces. We're going to be diving deep into how the interior of your home can be reflecting and affecting your life. Let's dive deep into the episode right here.
Gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha. 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 Gate, para samgate, bodhisvaha.
That was so lovely. Whenever you do that, I just completely zone out. Is that a chant from?
It's a mantra.
It's a mantra.
Yeah.
Is there a specific meaning to it?
Yes. It's called the Calming Heart Sutra.
The Calming Heart Sutra.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I feel very calm.
Good.
How do you feel?
I feel very calm as well. Thank you.
Amazing.
And grounded and
Yes.
very good.
Yes. Ready for our episode.
Yes.
Amazing. So, first of all, Sabah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
I love your energy.
Thank you.
I admire the work that you do and the work that we have done together and how transformational it has been for my own life as well as my spaces. So starting off by saying that you are an interior designer, a Feng Shui expert, and there was something else that I picked up on. Is it Biophilic designer? Okay, so we're going to dive into all of that and find out more about it because I'm very curious and interested.
Sure.
So with regards to what you do, would you like to tell us a little bit about why you started working in interior design?
Yes, thank you, Hélène, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I would say that I always had an interest in interior design. always bought my magazines, watched my program, but for some reason I didn't think it was for me. So it's not something I had considered. And one day I did consider that perhaps, it could be something for me. So I started a journey of studying interior design, then continuing my education with Feng Shui, and I realized that I really enjoyed it very much, and that also there was a lot of additional dimension to just the aesthetic aspect of interior design. So it's not just about making a space beautiful, it's also about making it feel beautiful. And yes, that's how my journey started. Yes.
Amazing. When you were designing interior design spaces, what was it that made you realize perhaps they needed a little bit more love than just the aesthetic parts?
Yes.
Did you notice that, okay, bringing in more elements of nature, or it was a feeling that it was giving you?
Yeah.
That you could bring more to it in that sense, when you mentioned that you felt like interior design needed a little bit more depth to it?
Yes. I think I always had that sensitivity to how you feel in a space. I think most of us have it, if not all of us, coming into a space and feeling good, not feeling good. So I think I consciously started to measure that when I started my Feng Shui journey. And then through those studies, I really started to understand why certain spaces could look a certain way, what that meant, how we could change those spaces, and really diving into that other dimension, that deeper dimension, that very interesting dimension of working on spaces. So it's really became just making a space looking really nice to making a space really supportive of the individual, and maybe helping them with some of the challenges that were showing up in their space, and maybe they didn't have that awareness.
So for the people that don't know, what is Feng Shui?
So I would describe Feng Shui as a discipline that comes from China and is about creating harmony in spaces. So I'm trained in Feng Shui, but I would say that in most culture, you would have a sort of Feng Shui for the specific culture, because let's remember that, centuries ago, people needed really to adapt to their environment, right? They needed to be able to grow crops and food, and they needed to feel safe. And so there was, in most culture, this element, the specific Feng Shui that I'm trained in is coming from China, is about creating harmony in the spaces. It's based on the Chinese metaphysics, so there are a lot of different, let's say, depth to that work. Work with, of course, the Qi energy. We work with the Yin and Yang. We work with the 5 elements. Work with the floor plan. Work with the Bazi, which is the Chinese astrology. And it's really about looking at the space, looking at the person, working with our intuition, and say, okay, what do we need to do in that space to help that person?
You mentioned a couple of points there that are intriguing to me. So you work with the 5 elements.
Yes.
Does that mean you bring all of those elements into a space?
I would say in most cases, yes. Certainly what we aim to do is to create balance in a space. And we're doing that also by looking at the Chinese astrology of the individuals living in the space. So as an example, somebody who in their Chinese astrology would have a lot of metal, as an example, and maybe it's already too much metal, I would not recommend, when I do my Feng Shui work, to add more metal. So
and that's based on their time of birth, the time and place you were born, correct?
Yes, and date. Yes, date, time, and place. And so we look at that, but we look also at the space. We look at the floor plan. We look also at what's coming up when we start the consultation, and see what are the challenges of the individual and the person. Yes.
Okay. And therefore, what I'm understanding is that based on the challenges that someone is facing, there are changes that we can make within our space that can be more supportive to specific areas of our life.
That's right.
Okay. And can you give us some examples of that?
Yes, of course.
I've seen it in practice. So I've experienced it as well, and I've seen how effective they can be. But for someone that hasn't ever thought, how can these practices come into my life? How can an interior design space, a space, change the way that I feel? Like, what are the things that we can give them solid examples?
Yes. So I would say that firstly, what's interesting is to step back and look at our space from a different angle, right? Because we live in our homes, we don't really necessarily pay a lot of attention or notice certain things. So as an example, somebody who would face, who would have a home office as an example and face work issue, and you look at their home office and you see all sorts of elements that makes you think that maybe there needs to be some changes in that space for things to change for that person. As an example, we'll have a concept in Feng Shui called the command position. So the command position means that you would have your desk placed in such a way in a room so that you can see who's coming in the room. A bit like a CEO, imagine a CEO in a big organization, they would usually have a solid wall behind them and being able to see who's coming in. So we would want to have that command position. We would want to have maybe artwork or elements in the room that are supportive of what this person is trying to achieve. We would want to avoid clutter if this person is very disorganized. We would want also to see how we can manifest certain elements. So we can use plants, we can use, again, artwork, objects, so that this person kind of starts shifting, their mind and their perspective, and see themselves differently because they live in a space that is different, they work in a space that is different, and maybe all of a sudden they see themselves in a different light, and they're ready to see those changes happening in their lives.
Today's episode is sponsored by Empowered New You, where we hold women's circles, ice bath and breathwork events, and retreats across the world. You can find more information on www.drstefanos.com and in the description below. You'll be able to book your events with us as well as subscribe to our email newsletter where you'll be able to find more upcoming events. We hope to see you there. When these changes are made within the space, is it something that is immediately felt by the person? Is this something that you've experienced, that they would initially feel the change?
Well, that's something that I like to mention is that Feng Shui works in mysterious ways.
Okay.
I personally never knew how those changing will translate.
Okay.
I know that they're meant to make those positive changes, but sometimes they appear, those changes, in very unexpected manners, right? But I would say that the first step is that we're changing the energy. That's the, step number one. We're changing the energy of the space. We're changing the perspective. And all of a sudden, some things that maybe were blocked or were challenging for that person, all of a sudden they start changing. Now, I'm not saying that Feng Shui, because you're Feng Shui your space, all of a sudden everything is going to be amazing, wonderful, no challenging. Of course, it's not like that, but just having that awareness that you have those blockages inside yourself, that you need to change that energy. You need to do that work yourself of changing your space, manifesting what you want. That already opens up opportunities.
Have you noticed that when you walk into people's homes, we all have different issues that come up, but do you notice that the home reflects their inner world?
Actually, not only I notice, but it's shockingly accurate.
Wow.
How people's challenging are showing up in their homes. It's shocking. I never stop being shocked by that, how surprising it is. It's just about knowing how to read the space, work with your intuition, but yes, it always shows up. What's also interesting with the Feng Shui work is that what people think their issues are not necessarily what the issues are, if you know what I mean. So they might say, well, I have issues with my work, or I have issues with it and that, but the real issue a lot of the time is somewhere else, right? So it's about working with the client, making them realize, working together to see, you know, what changes can be made for new things to happen in their life, or letting go of challenges. Yeah.
So you mentioned that there are times that we believe the issue is something else, but it's actually located somewhere else. Can you give me an example of that?
Yes. So as an example, someone might say, I'd like to be in a relationship. I would like to meet with someone. So you would think, you know, that the issue is this, you know, how to manifest. But maybe the real issue might be self-worth, or it might be, pain that they've been through that they've not managed to heal yet, and it shows up in their space. So yes, they would like to meet someone, but maybe there is other type of work that also needs to be done with regards to how this person feels, how they show up in the world, and then the relationship will show up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you do this kind of work, Sabah, do you find like you receive messages as to how to make specific changes?
Yeah. The way I have been trained. So there are different schools in Feng Shui and different approaches, and that's why it's a discipline that can feel a bit confusing. So in the type of Feng Shui I've been trained in, we absolutely use our intuition very much. And it's a bit like, yes, you are receiving messages, and usually for me it translates with goosebumps. Right, so it's quite interesting. Sometimes I'm like, okay, that's what's happening here. So I have goosebumps, yes, I mean, so there is an analytical part to it, in the sense that you will see things in the space. Okay, this may mean this may mean that, etc. But there is definitely an element of I need that information, and as a consultant, you would be more like the recipient of information, if I may say, right? Yes.
Yeah, interesting. I remember when you were in my house and we were standing, I believe, by the TV, and you were just kind of saying, you know, you need to bring a little bit more fire to this space because this is your space of recognition. And as you were talking, you went, the elephants, bring the elephants here. And I thought, you know, it was it's almost like as you were moving, it wasn't even intentional, but the way that you said it, I immediately thought, okay, that's interesting how that came into your awareness at that point in time. And the elephant represents, what does the elephant represent again?
The fire. The animals represent the fire.
Animals
energy.
represent the fire. So initially, like instinctively, you said place that there, and I thought, okay, that's amazing how, you know, that puzzle piece came together so quickly.
Yeah.
So I was also learning and watching you while you were practicing and implementing the concepts in my own home. There was one very interesting technique that you spoke to me about, which is, it feels a little bit like scripting. When you write in the past tense, it's like you're telling a story of your future self, and writing down what's actually already, what you want to manifest. And with those specific letters that you write to yourself, or stories, you place them in strategic positions in the house,
yes,
so they can manifest.
Yeah.
Is that tied to Feng Shui as well, or is that something that you personally do?
Well, I think a lot of Feng Shui practitioners would recommend something along these lines. It's certainly something that I advocate a lot, because I feel that a lot of the time it's our lack of belief in ourselves or what we can manifest that is actually creating the issues. You know, like sometimes we're in our own way, right? Yes. So I do feel that giving ourselves permission to manifest, to create, to have those dreams realized is the first step. If already we're not believing, you know, so I think from the moment you start visualizing, you know, you're thanking, I thank, you know, for this, I thank for this, I thank for that, you know, already it's almost in your reality, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yeah. It's very powerful for me when I sat and did it. First of all, I had to make the time to do it because I had committed to doing it. but just the process of thinking that there's an element of magic, is it?
Yes.
In there, that you are scripting your future, and in the same time you have been guided as to where to place it in the home. And therefore you feel like it's like you're creating a little spell,
Yes.
you're placing things where they need to be, and with that intention.
Yes.
It's a very powerful process.
Yes.
That we tend to, in our everyday lives, forget because we're so busy doing other things. But when you bring that intention into it, it becomes a beautiful practice. We mentioned that interior design spaces can reflect the inner world of a person. And I remembered an example of, because you also assisted my mom with her space. And one example that came to mind was her spaces specifically that relate to herself and doing her makeup and getting dressed. Like, she always has her spaces very cramped. And it was incredible to see how that was a reflection of her inner world. And you automatically picked up on that. And you gave her certain tips. So if someone has a very cluttered space and doesn't give themselves the grandiose attitude that they should have to life, what would you recommend to them?
Yes. So clutter can be complex issue depending on the type of clutter we're talking about, because there are different degrees. There could be, clutter which I would not describe as clutter. If, let's say, you have young children and you have a bit of toys everywhere, that's different. That's family life, etc. But when you see certain type of clutter in certain areas of the home, usually it reflects some kind of, maybe belief about yourself. Sometimes it's maybe not giving enough to yourself. Maybe it's about clarifying certain things, certain areas. So it can have different meaning. But in short, clutter can be described as stock energy.
Stock energy.
Absolutely, that's what it is. So in Feng Shui, we don't like stock energy. We like the chi to be able to move inside your home, right? So stock energy is not something that we like. So we want ideally to have a home and a space where things are neatly arranged, that we get rid of things that we don't need or use anymore, and making it as beautiful as possible. So in the example that you gave, it was also related to makeup and self-care. So it's about, okay, I'm going to make myself a priority. I'm going to do all this work for myself. So that was the relationship that I saw in the example that you gave.
It's fascinating how unconsciously we create our spaces. We live in them every single day, and yet we are unable to see how those spaces actually reflect our inner state of mind, or how we prioritize ourselves.
Yes.
And when a third person comes in and gives you that perspective, automatically you think, oh, wow, I've been doing this for years and it's only just come to my awareness.
Yes.
So I think that's why it's great to be able to bring a person that has your kind of skills into the space to give you that third perspective and understanding of how you can improve your spaces. Tell me about is it biophilic design?
That's
so
right.
That's something I've never heard of. What is that?
Biophilic design is an evidence-based discipline.
Okay.
And it's basically a concept that relates us to nature and how connected we are with nature, and how in our builded spaces, if we do not have that connection with nature, we probably are not going to feel very well. As an example, if you live in a big city, you work in this big tower, you have, no view of nature, maybe just a small little window. And your home also is very far from nature, and you actually lose that connection, and this probably is going to affect you in one way or another. You're not going to feel great, maybe you're going to feel tired, maybe you're not going to feel very well. So biophilic design is based on principles that are bringing the benefits of nature back into the spaces. So how this translate practically? What does it mean to have biophilic design principles implemented in our homes? An example, a very simple one, would be to bring nature, literally, plants, fish tanks, water fountains, these type of items, but also artwork, as an example.
So artwork with
nature.
with nature.
Yes, with nature, forests, sea, this type of artwork. Then it can be more subtle. So the type of material that you're going to bring into your home. So to favor natural material, natural fabric, like let's say for curtains, instead of having polyester or this type of material, you would use linen and cotton and this type of material. There is also the shapes that you're using.
The shapes,
so, yes. So using biomorphic forms, so anything that reminds you of nature. It can be also bringing shells, this type of decorative element, anything that is going to bring nature. So of course you want to do this in a harmonious way.
Yes.
But there has been many studies about the benefit of biophilic design. That's why so many organizations are embracing those benefits. One example I can give you is in hospitals. So they So there has been a study on hospitals about patients having or not having a view on nature, and those who had a view on of nature or were able to see artwork with nature, their recovery rate was much faster than the ones that didn't have anything, just had a wall. So there are lots of benefits to biophilic design. I personally feel very connected with nature. I feel that we all need that connection, whether we realize it or not. And so it's all about selecting the right elements for your home, having a home again that is created with intention. What do I want to have in my home? Do I want to have items and material that are supportive, that are positive, or not? So yes, there are many different ways of bringing the benefits of biophilic design, but the idea is really to have nature, more present in our homes and offices.
Do you find that people that are not connected to nature are open to bringing in more nature into their spaces as well?
Yes, I think so. I think you may have some people who think that they don't like nature. They might like being in nature, but a lot of the time, if you give them a choice, probably they will feel better in a space that is created based on those principles. It can be with the choices of colors. It can be, but usually people respond really well. It's very rare that you will have people to say, I don't want to have anything with nature in my space. And you can see that, just look at what locations people usually choose to go on holiday. Exactly. Most people because they're craving that. It's an inner need that we have, and so it's about bringing those benefits, inside our homes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always found it very interesting how hospitals, which are the spaces that we're meant to recover at, are so sterile.
Yes,
and there is no element of humanness in them. There's a lack of nature, there's a lack of color, and the recovery rates that you mentioned. It would be great if all spaces, especially public spaces, were more aware of such concepts and how those can bring more healing to ourselves. So within a space, do you find that a space can heal you?
I could certainly say that I think a space can contribute to healing. Certainly, again, when you have that awareness of what that space can do for you by bringing those elements into the space, it contributes to you. If you go to a home, let's say after a day at work, you go to a home and you feel like you can relax. You can heal, you can be yourself, you feel comfortable, you feel it's different from going to a space where you already may be stressed from your day and you have even more stress just because of the space is organized or the colors you chose or the items that you have. So I definitely feel that a space can contribute to us feeling better and healing and be certainly living our best lives, for sure. Yeah.
You mentioned color.
Yes.
How does color affect us within the spaces that we live, as well as what we are wearing?
Yeah. Color is a very interesting, concept in terms of our living spaces, but also in terms of what we wear. So color is something in terms of interior design sometimes people are not comfortable with. Usually they say, I'm just going to paint everything white because it's easy, right? Can't go wrong with white. But the thing is that by using, let's say, colors on walls or color with decorative items, you can create such a beautiful space. You can express your personality. You can bring in those, let's say, energies inside your home. So depending on what you would like, in some of your rooms, you might say, I want something very calming and relaxing. And in this room, I would like a bit more energy. It's also a great opportunity to create a space that is very beautiful by working with colors that complement each other. So instead of randomly choosing items, you can say, okay, I want really to have a scheme that represents that, and that's the colors that I'm going to bring into that space. So yes, colors are very important. Yes.
And based on my chart, I remember you mentioned that there are specific colors that I should wear more.
Yeah.
Does every person has different colors?
Yes.
Based on what they need to have more of.
Yes.
Within their own chart. So based on the time you were born, is that what it's based on?
Yes. So this is a concept of the Chinese astrology called the Bazi. Yes. So we all have what we call a day master, and we can also look at the strength of each element. So each of these Chinese elements has a lot of different aspects to it. There are numbers associated with it, colors associated with it, lots of different things. And so on the Chinese astrology of each individual, we're going to be able to see firstly what is their day master. So in your case, if I recall correctly, it was young fire, right? So you're a young fire. I am also young fire. So the young fire, the colors would be, red and bright orange and these type of colors. But of course, depending on the chart, you might say, okay, the young fire is already very strong. Let's not bring more of that. Let's bring other elements. So some elements would tone down, if so to speak, your day master, or on the other hand, support it. Okay. The idea with these 5 elements is to create balance. We want the home to be as balanced and supportive for that individual. On the other hand, if somebody, as an example, had no fire in their chart, fires is associated with recognition and how you're seen in the world. So maybe somebody who has no fire, maybe they're not really seen in the world and recognized for who they are and what they do. So maybe an individual like that, we might say, let's bring more of this fire element. Maybe wear these colors when you have an important function or something to be recognized and seen. So that's how you could use those colors theory in Feng Shui and for yourself in what you choose to wear.
It's very, very interesting, because a lot of the times we choose colors that represent how we're feeling, and they can actually help us in, whether you're going to go for an interview or whether you've got a big meeting or something important that's coming up. And I found that I always tend to lean towards oranges and like fire colors. So as soon as you told me I'm young fire, I was like, okay, it's very interesting, because I feel very cool. Hence why the design of this is like so bright, and that's just one thing that I would be personally drawn to. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you'd like to dive deeper into your own personal development and tap into your most authentic self, you can book a one-on-one session with me. You'll be able to find the details in the description here below. I look forward to chatting with you. Sabah, you are also a mum.
Yes.
And an entrepreneur. So How do you manage those two worlds?
Yes. I guess it's about trying to make the most of your time in your day. I think as most working mom, maybe doing a lot of, things in the evening and weekends and these type of things. But I feel that, my son is older as well now, so it's different than, when you have toddlers as well, But yeah, I think that it is manageable. And also when you have younger children, let's say, it's probably going to be, a bit tougher, let's say, in terms of managing your time and etc. But I feel that, these days we have lots of resources and examples also to look at of women who've managed to have a career and at the same time, have a family and looked after their children for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about creating that balance.
Yes.
Balance in your home, balance within your life, right?
Yes.
Yes. Sabah, do you have any questions for me today?
Yes, I have a question for you. So, yes, because we did, a Feng Shui consultation. So I would like to know how you felt after, implementing some of the changes that we discussed, how it went for you.
So I initially contacted you because I had Feng Shui'd my room when I was about 15 or 16. My mother had called a Feng Shui specialist over. And with that, I remember what a big difference it made in my life, like where I had placed my bed and just the ornaments that would work as anchors for me to give me strength. And therefore, I thought, I feel like it's time to make certain changes and attract more abundance into my life. And because I have just most recently been on this transformation and started to work within the space of podcasting, coaching, doing more circles and retreats, I really wanted to use my space in the most supportive way. And this specific room was actually a storage room. When you first came, it was such a mess. And you said, well, this was the room of your career. And I thought, wow, that's impossible. How has this room been the room that we've just, been throwing everything in? And one of the thoughts was to have the podcast in here. And this is where we're sitting right now, which is incredible to even speak about and to see that transformation and bring that to life through the suggestions that you made. And it's made a huge difference. It's made a huge difference in terms of my confidence and feeling that I have the support of the elements of nature as well, which is something we had plants in the house, but not as many. And bringing those elements into the home has brought even more harmony and balance within myself. And it's made a huge difference, specifically my bedroom, because my bedroom was very white. It was beautiful as it was, but where I have sort of moved things around and intuitively placed more plants within the room, the energy when you walk in there, you were just ready to go to sleep and surrender into that moment of bliss. And my sleep has also been better. So I have definitely felt the difference within the home. And I've also been more conscious of it. Mm-hmm. I think that's what this has brought to me, more consciousness as to where things are within the home and bringing more attention to them. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks, Hélène.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you on, Sabah.
Thank you, likewise.
And look forward to having you here soon again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure filming it for you guys. If you like the work that we are putting out into the world, please make sure you like this video and you subscribe to our channel. It really helps the work that we do.
And if you would like to follow our journey on our IG accounts as well as learn more about our services, we provide everything for you in the description below. Thanks for watching.